I've made it my mission almost every single week to sit down with a minimum of 2 people face to face.
Where does one start to get this go-getter attitude?
Vandana, thank you for joining the show.
She has been in real estate for over 15 years.
My parents had to file bankruptcy. I didn't have people that paid for college for me. I had to go do it myself. There was a time in my life I couldn't even pay $900 in rent. I was 80 pounds overweight. My life consisted of eating pasta and drinking wine every single night. My divorce was over 8 years. I spent more money on attorney's fees than anything else in my life. With my children, I want them to have a little bit of pain so that they don't take it for granted. I love learning. I have a lot of designations and certifications because that's what I do. I'm continuously learning about what it is that we do. This year, one of my goals is to either take the MIT program, the Stanford program, or the Harvard program. We get one opportunity to do this thing. So if I could say anything, like no matter what you do, don't worry about what everybody else thinks. Just go all in.
Today's guest is Vandana, a powerhouse real estate broker, philanthropist, and relentless go-getter who moved from New Delhi to Los Angeles and ultimately landed here in Las Vegas. For 20 years, she's built an impressive portfolio across residential, commercial, and everything in between, all while championing financial literacy and youth development. Vandana's story is one of constant learning, fearless ambition, and the simple power of going all in. I hope you find her journey as inspiring as I do. Here is Vandana Bhalla. So we're interviewing the city's greatest, inspiring stories, great ideas, local legends. I have one in front of me right now. Vandana, thank you for joining the show. You were born in New Delhi. You moved to California and eventually landed here in Vegas. Can you share a bit about that journey and how it shaped your life today?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me. So I was born in New Delhi, India. I moved when I was 8 years old. I actually moved to Pacific Palisades. And I think nobody really knew where that was until recently because of what's going on with the fires right now. And I lived in Pacific Palisades for quite some time. And I followed a boy to Las Vegas who ended up being my starter husband. And then I had kids with him and we ended up staying. I ended up staying here. I've been here now for 21 years. And I think living in different areas and moving around, and I haven't moved around that often if you think about it. It's only been like 3 big cities. But I did several others during college and whatnot, but I did, I think it makes a difference just to like reintegrate into communities and what does that look like? And you have to make friends, from the beginning, which sort of sits really well with my story and what I currently do. So. Okay, cool.
So let's throttle back a little bit. So yeah, Pacific Palisades, I want to touch on that since it's so apropos to our current moment. Mm-hmm. But tell us a bit more back, like when you were born, when you were a kid, you come all the way from New Delhi. That's no small deal, right? I'd like to know more of that part of the story.
So when I was younger, my dad always had this dream of coming to the United States. His older brother, saw an airplane one day. They were all outside, and they saw a plane, and he said, "I'm gonna take one of those to the United States." And back then, it was almost impossible to fly out to not even think about, coming to America or whatnot. So he had decided that's what he wanted to do. So he came out here and my dad followed him and they opened a business. It was for an export-import jewelry business, which is what they do even today. And my dad came, he sort of set everything up, here in the United States, and then came back for us. I have 2 brothers that both came with us. My youngest was about 6 to 8 months old when we moved. So in India, we lived in, so I'll start with, like when we were in India, there's 4 brothers and all of them lived on a different floor with their families. So like my dad, my mom, and then us, we had a floor. My uncle, his wife, and their kids had a floor. And then so on and so forth. So we all live as a family unit. That's kind of what we do culturally is we all live together. So when we came to the United States, we actually bought 2 houses next door to each other in the Pacific Palisades. And then 2 families in one house, 2 families in another. We sort of like had all the kids were always hanging out together. So I grew up with my cousins and whatnot. And I was, I remember, I think it was me and there were 11 of us, right? Me and like 10 others. And so we used to all just play together and hang out, and living right next door to each other made it really easy. We had a door with a gate that opened, and that's how we just went back and forth into each other's house. It was one big family unit.
I really like hearing that because only immigrants, I'm an immigrant too.
Yeah.
We understand that type of living, right?
Yeah.
And how people support each other. I don't know how it is in the Indian community, but I was hearing that, for example, in the Latin community, $1 moves just one time within the community. In the Jewish community, $1 moves 7 times around in the community. And I think it's probably similar for the Indian community because you guys are such a force, culturally here in the States now. Vandana, it's just great to know your story because I know you from a whole bunch of other groups. And one of the things that you were mentioning is, and I want to go into this because it's not planned in the questions that I have for you, but you said they call you the hammer, and we have a hammer right here. So why is that?
So this hammer is very different than the hammer. So I'm sitting in my office one day, and I've been asked here at the company that I work at, I handle a lot of the compliance stuff, which anytime there's an issue with agents that, they have struggles with other agents, or brokers have struggles with other brokers, and they can't seem to get anywhere, and they can't seem to like move the needle on coming to a resolution, I get called.
You drop the hammer.
I drop the hammer. I get called. And so one day I show up to the office, and one of the other brokers drops a hammer on my desk. And I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, that's your new nickname. We're going to call you the hammer from now on because of a way that I handle the specific incident or whatnot. And then my assistant's like, well, your hammer can't. It was just like one of those normal hammers that are from Home Depot. And my assistant was like, I'm not going to allow that. I'm going to bling this out for you. So will you grab me that hammer really quickly?
No, so it's not this one? Okay.
No.
Fair enough.
So she shows up, and then like in a couple of weeks, she like puts gold and red and like does a little bit of bling on it. She's like, this is your hammer. This is the hammer that we're gonna use for you from now on. So
that makes a lot more sense.
Yeah. So now they call me the hammer in the office, and it's just my nickname. And even in like any of my emails, or we have an app for the entire company. It's Vandana the Hammer Bhalla.
No way.
Yeah.
Have you told this story in a public medium before?
I have not.
Well, then, we get the first exclusive here. That's super awesome. So you've been in real estate for 19 years. What first drew you to the real estate industry?
Actually, 20. So
20 now. Wow.
Some of this goes back. So I'm gonna go back to a little bit of my history. I actually have a master's in education from Cal State Long Beach, and then I taught elementary school for 3 years. And I know you've got some questions about that, so I'll save that for later.
Yes.
And I decided at that point, I loved the kids, and I really wanted to help, but I didn't love their parents. So let this be a little note to you that don't get so focused on like your kids' stuff. And I tried really hard as a parent, because I have 2 kids, I have 2 boys, and I tried really hard as a parent not to like make the teachers' lives miserable, right? I want to be a partner with them for the success for my children. And that's not what was happening when I was an elementary school teacher. It absolutely drove me insane. So I went and got a paralegal certificate. I always wanted to be a district attorney. I always wanted to go to law school.
I can see that.
So I went and got a paralegal certificate. I worked at the DA's office in Long Beach as a paralegal assistant for a year. And then I applied for law school. I took the LSAT. I applied for law school. And I actually went to law school at California Western School of Law. And that was in San Diego. So I moved around quite a bit, Long Beach to Cerritos area, and then went to San Diego. And it was during 9/11 that I started my first year. And it was in that first year where we had this like, I don't know if it was an epiphany, but like, who knows how much longer we're going to be in this world? Like, who knows what the world is going to have, scheduled for us? And so I took the year, so I finished my first year of law school, and then decided to get married at that time. And the guy that I was seeing and who I was going to marry lived in Las Vegas. And so that's how I ended up in Las Vegas. I took a year off. I went wedding shopping. And in between, so just to give you an idea, in between all of I'm going to go be a teacher, and I graduated high school, my family actually, so there's a lot of stuff, but my family ran a beauty pageant. It was called Miss LA India. I wasn't allowed to be in it because my family ran it. And so I started doing runway modeling for a lot of the designers from India. So did a lot of runway modeling for them. I ended up in India to go back to I really wanted to be a Bollywood actress. So I went back to get trained and really learn a little bit about sort of what that was going to entail. And I hated it. And then came back and got my certificate to a master's in education so that I could go be a teacher.
That's crazy. So
pause all of that. I know. So I had like 6 careers in my life.
That's great. And I can see them all. You can you could fit, like there could be a Vandana for each one of those.
Yeah.
Like if we cloned you into 6. Yeah. We could put all those Vandanas in there. I'm just seeing it as you're talking about it. Like I'm getting all the mental pictures. Yeah. Please continue.
So anyway, so then I moved to Las Vegas, and when I moved to Las Vegas, there was a piece of parcel. So my starter husband really liked he was in gas stations, car washes, hotels, and he was a developer. And so there was a piece of parcel that he really wanted. Our real estate agent didn't understand. When I moved to Vegas in 2003, there was nothing past Ann Road going north, and there was nothing past Rainbow going west. I mean, it was like this, a little itty bitty town, right?
I remember that time, 2002, 2003. That's when I arrived in Vegas.
Yeah. So in 2003, there was nothing past Ann Road, and there was a piece of parcel that we were looking at, on Durango, which is now Durango. It's a huge corridor. There's hundreds of thousands of homes there. So we were looking at that. We knew what the map, like we saw what the city had planned for it. So we knew that it was going to be a pretty big deal. We wanted to put a gas station and a car wash and a hotel and healthcare offices and so on and so forth on that parcel. Well, our real estate agent was just like, I don't understand. It doesn't make any sense, blah, 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 blah. And so as I was waiting for law school to start, so that I could finish law school, my starter husband said, go get your real estate license. And I'm like, I'm going to be an attorney. I'm going to go after I'm going to be an attorney. I'm going to be a DA, and then I'm going to be a defense attorney, and then I'm going to go, be a judge, and then I'm going to do, I had a plan.
Were you planning it here in Nevada now that you were in Vegas?
Yeah, I was planning all of this, and I was like, I had all these plans to go be a judge and then eventually retire at the age of 45, and which would, be now. Yeah. So I was like, that doesn't make any sense. I'm not going to do that. Just do it. Fine. So I went and got my real estate license. And honestly, we had 1,100 people at our wedding. We told all of them that I know. Told pretty much everyone that I was in real estate. And I haven't stopped. I've just been busy since. It's been crazy. And back in 2003, you could throw a dart at the map of Las Vegas, and no matter where it was going to land, it was going to double or triple in value. That's just how it was. So we kept pretty busy.
From the way you are, I can tell you would have excelled in anything, whichever you would have picked. So the 1,100 people, that's a good commercial.
That is a good.
I'm getting married, and I do real estate. Come in.
Yeah, exactly.
So you specialize in everything from luxury homes, high-rises, commercial properties, property management. How do you manage to stay on top of such a wide range of sectors?
In a lot of ways. So that didn't all happen in one day. That happened over time. So when I started in 2003, I started in commercial, right? Because we wanted that vacant piece of parcel. So I started as a commercial broker. And then quickly, as all these people said, hey, I really want a house, you could literally have everyone sign the contract and not even know what home they were going to buy, and they were ready to buy, and it was going to double or triple. And so moved into residential pretty quickly from there. And then after several years, slowly started learning, different aspects. When the market slows down, so in 2007, 2008, the market kind of slowed down. I was actually pregnant at the time. My son was born in February 2007. And so right prior to that, we felt the market shifting. And the high-rise boom had started. And so I really just started learning a lot about the high-rise boom and all of the high-rises that were coming up. And so I picked one that I really liked based off of, where it was situated, the one that made the most amount of sense. We put our money where our mouth is. And then we started calling everybody and saying, hey, this is a great investment. Go ahead and, we've bought a few properties in here now. We recommend that you do as well. It's going to add value, at some point. You'll make some equity. I still have clients that own those properties today, and then several of them have sold them. So I learned a lot about the high-rise market. So I got very involved, sold 30-something units at Turnberry Towers, sold 30-something units over at Badara and Veer Towers. That was kind of our, over at City Center. That
Initial.
Was a big deal. Yeah.
Wasn't that the time where you would buy a property and the next day it was worth $20,000 more? I remember those times.
But then what happened was, 2007, everybody purchased, but those buildings weren't ready until 2009. And so then the market crashed, right?
Yes.
So then they had to hold on or make decisions on, hey, I think I may just cut my losses or I'll continue and just hang on to them. So a lot of my clients hung on to them. So I did a lot of that. So that happened in 2008, 2009, learned a lot about luxury. And then of course and then in 2009, I had my second son. And when I had my second son, I sort of said, I'm just going to take some time off. And I just started learning a lot about the industry, about real estate in general. And so I started taking certifications and a lot of designations because there wasn't a lot of business happening at the time. And as soon as I came back from, being home with my kids, I came back in about 2010, so took almost a year, 6 months to 6 to 9 months off. Came back in 2010, and the market was so different. The high-rises boom was gone. There was no hey, you're going to buy a property. It was going to double or triple in value. I learned a lot about REOs. In fact, I remember going to lunch with one of my best friends who's a title officer at the time, or a title rep. And I said to her, I was like, what's going on with REOs? What is this REO business?
Stop. What does REO mean?
It's real estate owned. So when you buy a property, there's a bank essentially has a mortgage, right? You have a mortgage with a bank. If you don't pay that mortgage, it goes back to the bank. They foreclose on it. And so the bank has REOs, which means that they own now the real estate, because you no longer paid your mortgage. And so there was a lot of REOs happening at the time, and I didn't understand any of it. And so I asked her, I said, well, which one's the best REO account? She's like, oh, honey, you're not going to get an REO account. There have been people who have been working for 3 years for this. It's impossible, right? And I went, what's the best REO account? And she said, it's HUD. And I said, all right, what do I need to do to go get it? And she said, you need to go to every conference humanly possible, shake hands with people, kiss some babies, and just be there, go network. And I went, okay, when's the next one? She's like, it's this weekend. I remember this conversation like it was yesterday. She's like, it's this weekend. And I said, where is it? She said, it's in Dallas. I said, sounds like I'm going to Dallas. And she's like, are you serious? And I said, yeah, I'm going to Dallas. So I go home, I tell my husband, and I'm like, hey, I know we've got 2 little ones, but here's what I need to do. Here's how I need to go get the accounts. And I have to go to Dallas. And he was like, okay, fine. Then the next one was in Palm Springs. The next one, it was this nonstop circle. I was gone probably 2 weekends out of a month to different conferences and just meeting everybody. And about 10 months later, I remember this call too. In October of 2010, I get a phone call, and it's this gentleman that I've spent some time talking to at conferences. We've sort of just hung out. I remember the last conference I went to, which was for the Asian Real Estate Association of America. We were just sitting and talking, and I was asking him about his wife and his kids. And, we were literally just chit-chatting, sitting at a bar. He calls me and he says, hey, so I understand you don't have any REO accounts. I'm like, I don't. And he was like, do you know what I do? And I'm like, no, I don't. What do you do? And he's like, well, I'm the asset manager for this particular resource company. And so what happens is the banks, they hire asset managers, and then the asset managers hire the real estate agents in the different cities that they're allowed to hire in. And so he's like, he goes, I would never do this. He goes, but I like your energy. You're already doing, and so that was the other thing, is that I learned that in order to get a HUD account, there's a couple of things. When you get the HUD account, you have to do certain things. You have to teach classes. You have to tell people how to actually write contracts. You have to do those yourself. So I just got fully immersed in the entire thing. I started teaching classes. I didn't have an account. I started teaching classes. I was already doing the things that they wanted their listing brokers to do. And so he's like, you're already doing everything. You're advertising the properties. You're telling people how to buy and sell, or how to buy HUD properties. You're teaching your clients, potential clients, you're teaching agents. He's like, I'm going to give you a shot. Don't let me down. And I said, you will have absolutely nothing to complain about, I promise. And so I had that contract for about 3 years. And I mean, I was selling anywhere from, it could have been 20 a month to 50 a month. It just depended on our inventory. But we had a lot of inventory at the time because there were a lot of homes that got foreclosed on. So started that. That's how I learned that aspect.
Okay.
Then as soon as that was
gone, area was gone. That's not
they're
the
not
thing
gone.
right now.
They're just not as prevalent.
Okay.
And so that's how I learned that aspect. And then, of course, the property management sort of came about. And it was one of those things that an agent in my office was like, I want to do property management. And I said, well, that means I have to go get permitted. She goes, yeah, okay. So I went on a weekend. I went and got permitted for property management. And then I started essentially saying, okay, well, what does this look like to be a successful property management division? Worked with Brandon, who is the owner of the company. And I said, okay, we need this and we need this and we need this and we need, fine, let's go do that. So we built the property management division. And it just slowly, like, that's the same thing that happened with business brokerage. So
from this whole interview, it's insane. You're an absolute go-getter. This is the major thing that I see. And I don't know how much it is. Were you born with it? Did you develop it? Did you do personal development? What makes that combination of things for you, right? And, like, if you want to highlight a few things that make you, because it's, you just, anything, like, you could have been a district attorney, you could have been an amazing teacher, you could have been anything of these things. Now you focused on real estate, and from what I can see, you just go get.
Yeah.
One of the other things that I always see about you is that whenever you're out there in public, in events, you always give importance to everybody that you meet, because you never know where you're going to get that phone call like the REO, and you probably get phone calls like that all of your life, right? The right phone call from the right people, because you gave that right person the business. But come on, give me 3 or 4 tips that we can inspire people to who aspire to, I'm pretty sure there's a lot of women that are aspiring to be like you. I mean, where does one start to get this go-getter attitude?
I'm fascinated by people, and I'm fascinated by people's stories. And so when you talk about, like, at events, like, I give everybody the attention. I'm truly fascinated, like, about knowing more about you. I want to know who you are, where you came from, what brought you here. And so I've made it my mission almost every single week to sit down with a minimum of 2 people face to face. Like, someone says, hey, can we get on a phone call? I'm like, no, let's go for coffee. Like, can we go? No, let's go grab lunch. Let's go. I want face to face. I want to see your reactions. I want to see your facial expressions. I want to get to know who you are. And that's just one of the things that I like. It's one of my favorite things to do. So I would say that that's probably the one thing. I don't know if it's something in me or that I was born with. 'Cause I mean, no offense, I love my family. They're not like this. I think over time, there's just been, I've had a couple of struggles. I had, even when I got divorced, that divorce lasted me over 8 years. It was a nonstop battle. And so I never want to be in these positions where I feel like I'm helpless. And I think it's because I went through some struggles. Even as I was growing up, my parents, because there was another crash that happened back in 90s, right? Late 80s, early 90s, right, where we had no choice. Like, my parents had to file bankruptcy. And so when they did that, I had to go work in order to pay some bills, or even to go, get new clothes or whatever, go to college. Like, I didn't have people that paid for college for me. I had to go do it myself. I didn't have, like, if I wanted to go buy an outfit, I had to go buy it. And so I think over time, as things happen to you in your life, you just figure out how to survive. And then I just take everything a little bit next level.
Right. But I don't know
where that came from.
That's great. Okay, from origins, but what have you done personal development wise? Because I know you've shared several things. What do you do? Like, what do you think? You've probably, I don't know, tell me like 3 different modalities and things, and I know you've done a lot. We've done a lot. So.
Yeah, I'm a consistent learner. I love to learn new things. I love to learn how to be better. I wake up every morning. I do all the things. I meditate. I, wake up with gratitude. I do my affirmations, which I call conscious self-creations. I sit down and plan my day. On a weekly basis, I plan my week. On a quarterly basis, I plan what the next 3 months look like. On an annual basis, I plan what the year looks like, and then build that out to 3 years and 5 years and 10 years. If I accomplish this now, what is it going to look like in 3 years? What is it going to look like in 5? Like, I do all of those things. I do the vision boards. I do all of those things. But all of that came over time. I read a lot. I like to really learn what, just what other people are doing. And there's no reason to reinvent the wheel. I went through a program about 3 years ago, 4 years ago now. It was in 2021, called Chill Maiden. And it was probably one of the most impactful things that I have done without realizing it.
Is that the one that you're in the beach carrying the bags and all that? Okay.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear more about that journey.
Yeah. So it started with, there was a gentleman that came to Vegas a couple of times through our company. We had sponsored him to come out. He was a friend of one of the brokers that was here, one of the partners for the company. And he came and spoke about something. And I remember I was so focused. All I wanted to do was, I was focused on my career and I was focused on my kids. There was a time in my life I couldn't even pay $900 in rent. Like, it was impossible. I mean, my divorce, when I say it was over 8 years, it was over 8 years. I spent more money on attorney's fees than anything else in my life. It sucks. It was the worst thing. But
after being so successful.
Yeah. And it just
knocked down with that divorce.
Correct.
And you built yourself back up.
Right. Completely. Like, I've probably had to start over a couple of times in my life. And I think that's also part of the motivation, because I don't want my kids, especially with my children, I don't ever want them to suffer. I want them to have a little bit of pain so that they don't take it for granted, but I also don't want them to suffer, right? I want them to work hard and know the value of a dollar and understand that, but I don't want them to really suffer the same way, if that makes sense. And I'm not saying I had a horrible, I'm not saying I had a horrible childhood. I think the reason that I am who I am today is because of that. And I don't know. It was just, so I went through this program because the gentleman who came, he said to me, he asked, what's the struggles that you're having right now? And I said, I'm struggling with this one particular thing and I want to fix it. I want to forgive this person for certain things that have happened in my life. And then that day, his partner came to me and said, when are you coming through our deal? And I said, I don't know, when's the next one? He's like, in 2 weeks. And I said, all right, I'll come for that. And
just like the meetings, just like that.
Yeah. Sure, I'll come for that.
You decide and you go.
So he was like, well, it's in Destin, Florida. And I said, sounds great. How do I get there? And he's like, right. And so he gives me the information. He gives me the dates. I basically, take the time off from work, make sure that I don't have any appointments, cancel all my stuff. And I head out there. I have zero idea of what I was going in for. It was almost like I paid them money to kick my ass for 4 days. But then I came out this whole different person. And one of the most significant things about that world, actually there were so many. And I remember when he did the first interview, he said, hey, what are you hoping to get from this week? And I said, my entire life people have asked, who do you look up to? And I've never had a real answer. I want to be in the top 5 people that my kids say, that's who I look up to. That's the person that I want to strive to be like. And I want to be in their top 5.
Right. But you, don't have that.
I'm me. I was, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. And I could still to this day not tell you, was there somebody that I wanted to emulate? No, I don't know. But I wanted to be in the top 5 for my kids. When somebody asked them that question, I wanted to be somebody that popped up in their minds. And so I live, and so people talk about legacy all the time. I don't want to leave a bunch of stuff. I want to leave the legacy in my kids in the way that I've brought them up as because they're both boys, like in the way that I've brought them up as gentlemen, and the way that I've taught them about life and and the way to work hard and how to get to the next level. Like my brother is in town right now, and his daughter yesterday, I have these things called table topics on my table. So she loves going through those and like asking everybody. She's 8, by the way. So she pulled one out. She's like, okay, what's your goal for this year? And everybody's like, don't ask Aunt V, because she's going to have like 10 things on her list. She's going to do a whole podcast on it. Yeah, they went through everyone else and everybody answered their one goal. And so then she's like, okay, it's your turn. And I was like, so this year I want to do this, and then I want to do this, and then I want to accomplish this. And everybody's like, see, told you. And I'm like, that's how I function. That's how I live. I just want to, like, I have these goals and I set them up and I'm like, this is how I'm going to get there. And here's the things that I'm going to do. So that was something that came out of that program as well, is I really just learned to set goals in a way that I've never set them before. Like big, audacious goals, huge things that I would never even imagine. And so I remember as I sat there, I'm like, God, I would love to pay off my house. And as much as my financial planner hated it, I set a plan for it and I paid off my house in less than 6 years. So from that moment, though, that I said I would love to pay off my house, it took me 6 months. 6 months. And I just went after it. I'm like, okay, this is what I need to do. This is how I need to do it. Here's the things that need to happen. Here's who I need to talk to. It just became a thing. So that was one of the things that came out of it. And I think what led to that was the sandbag. So I'll tell you the sandbag story.
I mean, I'd love to know where you were at the time too. Like, how was your emotions, your body? There's a lot of context behind like that time. Yeah. Because I know it was a big breakthrough and it was a big change for you. But where were you exactly?
I was about 80 pounds overweight.
Okay.
My reality
that
was...
is very hard to picture, just to...
I'll show you one. It's absolutely ridiculous. Like people look at it and they're like, who was that?
We can put this in the video when we're...
Happy to send it to you.
Yes.
So I was 80 pounds overweight. My life consisted of sitting at my friend's house, drinking an entire bottle of wine every single night, and pasta for dinner every single night. And then we'd be sitting there watching TV, hanging out, and then, her boyfriend would be like, I really want some cheesecake. And so she would be like, all right, let's make some cheesecake. And we'd make cheesecake, and then he would make, caramel sauce from scratch. And this was our life. Like, we want creme brulee. Let's go get that. We want ice cream. Let's Instacart that in. Like, we did not care. I just got to a point where I was like, I'm overweight. I'm just going to own it. That's going to be my life, right? I just given up. So that was kind of where I was at. And I knew I hated that aspect of my life. I spent a lot of time with my kids. I had a lot of real conversations with my children, and I loved my relationship with them, but I wanted to like really have that like next level relationship with them, where we spent one-on-one time together, where we did things that I don't know, like just experiences. And it wasn't about, material things and whatnot. So I was in a good place with my children. I was in a good place with my brothers. I always have been. We're pretty tight. I was not in a good place with my parents. And so I really wanted to work on that. So relationship wise, financially, I was doing well. I was successful, but I wasn't in a like pay off my house successful, go do bigger things successful. I just wasn't there. And I knew I wanted all of those things, but I was also lazy because I was fat. Like, I just didn't care.
You were just ghosting.
Huh?
You had enough. It was ghosting.
Yeah, I was fine. I was at that level. And so when I went into this program, I remember sitting on the beach, and we're there, and they hand us these sandbags. And they say, the coaches, they hand us these sandbags, and they're like, fill it up. And I was like, okay, I can do that. So, I filled up the sandbag. There was sand, so we take all the sand, we put it in the sandbag, and and stand it up. And
give me a bigger picture. How many people are here? Why?
There were 7 of us. There were 7 women.
7 women. It's just women.
It was just women. Okay. So there's 2 programs, one for men and one for women. It was just women.
Okay. Was everybody overweight, or everybody had different issues?
Everybody had something going on, right? So we the focuses were financial, physical, relational, spiritual. Those were the 4 real pillars that we worked on.
With a sandbag.
with everything, the entire 4 days. It was, where are you at in any one of these 4 pillars? And then that's what we focused on.
So you start with a sandbag, filling it up with sand.
So
I'm just fascinated because I know where this goes. But
yeah, and there's four coaches, and they're like these big, like 6'5", 6'7", 6'9". Like they're tall and they're buff and they're in shape, and they're the coaches standing in front of us. And so I get the bag, I fill it up, I stand it in front of me, and I'm like, done, coach, right? Like proud and ready to go. And he was like, you sure? And I said, yeah, I'm ready to go. And so, we all had a timer to do it, and everybody else stands in front of their bag. And so he comes to mine and it's full, and he shakes it. And I don't know if you know what happens to sand when you shake it.
It goes down.
It goes down, right? And so the bag was not full anymore. And he looked at me and he goes, is this how you do everything in your life? Do you? Yeah. Like, do you half-ass everything in your life the same way? And I went, oh my God, like, I didn't know that was going to happen. He goes, oh, really? You didn't know that sand was going to settle when I shook it? You thought that this was 100%? And I froze. Mind you, again, imagine the 6 foot, he looks like The Rock, right? So imagine the 6 foot, like 5 guy, like hovering over me, big and buff. And he's just like, is this how you do everything in your life? And I'm like, no, maybe. So he's like, do it again. And I'm like, okay. So I do it again, and this time it's more full, and he shakes it, and it didn't get to the very top again for the second time. And now it's this like, listen, there are 7 of you, and all 7 of you have to fill up each one of your bags to 100%. Work as a team, figure out how you're going to do it. I'm going to and he's like, I'll give you 3 minutes. And so, he gives us 3 minutes, and he says, give me a liter. And I, jump up, and I'm like, okay. And he's like, how long do you need? He's been giving us like 60 seconds. I'm like, I need like a minute and a half. I really want 3. And he's like, you're not going to get 3. And I'm like, then give me a minute and a half or 2. I'll take 2.
It takes more in the discussion than the actual
Right. Nobody ever told us that we can get more time, right? So I asked for more time, because ask and you shall receive. And so I asked for more time. We got more time. We figured out a way to do it. And now this time I actually, I filled up the sandbag, and I filled it up. It was heaping. Like, even if he shook it, there was no way it was going to be less than 100%. It was going to be 100% or even higher. And so sure enough, we all did it. We worked together. We made it happen. Every single one of us had 100% in our bag. And then we were done. I was like, this is how I'm going to live my life. I'm going to fill up the sandbag so that it's heaping sand in this bag for everything I do in my life. And that was like a real pivotal moment for me as well. So that happened. And then the same thing with the same sand on this hill. And I can send you this video, and I actually have it on my YouTube.
I think I've seen it, yes.
So I can send you the video from YouTube. This hill was just, it was monstrous, and I love it and I hate it, mind you. So like I do anything, I do everything. And that's kind of one of the things that we used to say, how you do anything is how you do everything. And so this hill, we had to carry these sandbags. Well, I have a CrossFit injury from many, many years ago. And so when I was carrying the sandbag, I couldn't lift it. And because I couldn't lift it, so I have a shoulder injury that's bothered me for now, over 15 years. And so when I was carrying the sandbag, I couldn't actually pick it up. My entire arm froze. My hand turned black and blue because I lifted it up over my head a couple times, and
you just have to lift it up and carry it.
And I have to carry it. I have to carry it down this hill, and then I have to carry it up the hill, and it's a steep hill.
How many times?
We only had to do it one time, but then once we did it once, we had to do it several more times. And I looked at him, like, Coach, there's no way I can carry that. It's impossible for me to lift. And he goes, there's 7 of you. There's 7 bags. 7 bags go down that hill. 7 bags come up the hill. And I was like, I'm hurt. And he looked at me and he goes, there's 7 of you, 7 bags. 7 bags go down that hill, 7 bags come up that hill. And I just looked around and I was like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. So I start going for the bag, and I'm like, I'm just going to push through. Again, at this point, probably even hurting myself worse. And there was one of my sisters, so all 7 of us, right? One of the girls, she says to me, she's like, listen, I'll carry your bag.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, absolutely not. I got this. And she was like, listen, you're really good at so many. And every time I tell this story, it makes me cry. It's making me teary-eyed even now. She's like, you're good at certain things. And this is just not it right now. You don't have to carry this bag. Nobody said you have to carry this bag. Let me carry it for you.
Yeah, the instructions were 7 bags go down. So it does it that JZ say who, how, where.
Yeah, let me carry it for you. And your job is to make sure that we make it down in time and that all of us are together and we make it back up in time. She goes, you be the lookout. You're the one that like, we all go down together. We all come up together. We're going to do this together. You're in charge of making sure that happens. I'm in charge of carrying your bag. And it just took me a minute. And I just started crying because I've never in my life even considered allowing someone else to help me.
Yeah.
And that was a huge thing for me. So, I mean, I come back from that week and I mean, it's crazy because I just told this story on another podcast that I was on, and she heard the story and she texted me and she was like, she goes, I will carry your bag even today. And I got that. And when I sent her the text, I go, you don't even understand like how important that was for me. That lesson that you taught me that day was so big that like I've carried it in my life because it meant that I didn't have to do it all alone. And that was huge. It was huge, right? So even now, to this day, I mean, I came back and I hired an assistant, and then I hired a second one, and I hired a third, because I got to a point where I was like, I can get help. I don't have to do this by myself. And that's what took me next level.
Amazing. How a small metaphor can create
Yes.
such simple metaphor creating so many breakthroughs.
Yeah.
Wow. Thank you for sharing, Vandana.
Yeah.
So
I know I'm crying. Thanks for that.
so good. So then, did you realize, because my next set of questions is around your leadership, did you realize that maybe you don't have, like you said, to carry the bag, but you are a leader that can inspire others to carry the bag or be leaders? I mean, somebody has to carry the bag, but also somebody's got to inspire, right?
So I graduated from that program June 11th, 2021. And then in November, the coach, the big one that was like, this is how you do everything. In November, he called me and he said, hey, I want you to coach with us. And I'm like, what? And he goes, yeah, I want you to be one of our coaches. I want you to come and do the same thing that we did for you for other women.
Okay.
And look, if you know anything about me, I was like, oh, I'm in. Okay. Let's do it. Come to find out, I'm great at yelling at people. So like, when it was sandbag time, I'm like, is this how you do everything? Like, I was just...
You've had the script.
I was in. Like, I was like, yes, this is what I want to do. And so I went back. My first one that I did with him was in November of 21, and then again in February. And then every 3 months after that, I would go back and I would do it again and do it again. So I actually helped, I want to say probably a good 50, 60 women through the program, if not more. I can't remember the count, maybe even more. Because sometimes we had 7, sometimes we had 10, sometimes one time we had 21. So we just, I just went all in. And I did that with coaching women and helping them get through some of the same breakthroughs. And that was one of my most inspiring, and I don't know, I just loved doing that. It was awesome.
There's 3 aspects of leadership that I see in you. I see you in your company, in your family, and I see you're a leader in several groups in the city, and you are a leader in philanthropy and for Las Vegas. What are the top 2 things that you're doing right now in that realm right now? So
I'm on the board of directors for Junior Achievement of Southern Nevada.
And what is Junior Achievement?
Junior Achievement, essentially, what we do is we help children figure out we provide financial literacy for our youth, so that when they're older, they understand how to balance a checkbook. They understand how to make decisions about money. They understand, needs versus wants. They understand that, hey, you may want the Ferrari, but you can't afford the Ferrari. And so you need to do the things that you need to do for your family. And so we have several programs throughout Junior Achievement. We go into schools for JA in a day. We just built BizTown, our inspiration center, which holds BizTown. It holds our finance park. We have several programs that are within our inspiration center as well, where we get children bussed in, and they just learn a lot about financial literacy. It's actually a fascinating program, and I'll send you some.
Yeah, we'd love to get the links and all that.
Yeah, it's a fascinating program. It's probably one of my favorite. And the reason I found Junior Achievement was because I went through a program called Leadership Las Vegas in 2017. And when I went through the program in 2017, there was our one of the days was Community Safety Net Day. And at Community Safety Net Day, Junior Achievement was there and Boys and Girls Club was there. And so this will touch on, some of the other philanthropy stuff that we do here at the company. But Boys and Girls Club got up. Apparently, the gentleman who was the CEO of Boys and Girls Club, I didn't know until that day. Him and I used to play sand volleyball together, and I had no idea. Wow. And so we were already donating backpacks and school supplies to them. And one year we did like $10,000 in backpacks and school supplies from our company. And he came to Leadership Las Vegas and he said, yeah, we're looking for, we do backpacks and school supplies every year. Well, and I said, well, what is it that you really, really need? Like, what do you absolutely need? And he's like, transportation. We need to help our kids get to and from our facilities, because without that, we can't do the programming that we want to do. We don't get the kids in our spaces to help them with homework or, more stuff. And I was like, okay, let me think about this. And so that was the year that actually Signature Strong was born, which was our nonprofit arm. And we donated, I decided at that moment, I said to him, how about we donate a van? Like, can we buy you a car, like a 15-passenger van to get the kids to and from your facility? And he was like, that would be amazing. Because, he was like, I was just thinking bus passes. I'm like, we can do that too. But, let's do the van. Let's try the van. Would that work for you? Would that add more liability? He goes, no, that would be great. Okay. So I went on this mission. I have one of my friends is a CFO of Finley Automotive. And so I called him and I said, hey, I'm thinking about doing this. Would you like to partner up in case I can't come up with the full money for this van? I want to buy it from you. Will you help us? And he said, yes. He goes, absolutely. So in collaboration with Finley Automotive, we at Signature donated the 15-passenger van to Boys and Girls Club full of backpacks and school supplies. And so then I got on the board of Boys and Girls Club to do it again and again and again. So I started with that. And most of this happened when my kids were born. So my older son was born in 2007. When he was born, I remember when he started going trick-or-treating, there was this thing called Sight Night that started happening. And so Sight Night was where you donate glasses and eyewear or sunglasses or whatever to a company called One Sight. Now it's through LensCrafters. But they take that, they refurbish it, and they send it to third world countries to provide sight to third world countries. And I was like, that's easy enough. I can get a 3-year-old to ask people for their glasses. That's easy, right? And so I started my kids pretty early in the philanthropic world as well. So we started picking up, and I don't know if you noticed, coming into our office, there's this little box for that collects eyewear.
Oh, yes. So that still goes to the day. It's
to this day. So I've been doing it now. My son's going to be 18. So we've been doing it for 15 years. Every year we'll donate anywhere from 400 or 500 glasses, and we'll take it to LensCrafters and they send it off to third world countries. So we've been doing this for quite some time. In fact, my kids for their birthdays for many years now, they've been required to find a nonprofit that they like and either volunteer or give back or do something. And so last year, my son, or the year before, my son wanted to, he was like, I really like Make-A-Wish. I like their mission. I'm like, okay, well, let's go visit. So we went to Make-A-Wish. It was the 3 of us, both my kids and I. We went to Make-A-Wish to go sort of check out who they are, what they do. And my son's like, yeah, this is what I want to do. I want to grant a wish for a kid. And so he raised $5,000 and granted a wish for a kid. It was one of the most amazing things. He wanted a gaming unit. He wanted to have a complete gaming unit. And this kid had been through so much, right? I mean, he had his heart replaced. He had cancer. you name it, this poor kid just, but all you want, and the smile on his face, it was amazing. It was one of probably my favorite experiences that we've had. But my son did all of it on his own. But like, so I've already gotten them very involved in philanthropic work just because I want them to know, like, there are people, we're in a really good position, but there are people that don't have everything. And so we need to be those, we need to be able to help as much as we can. So we just started on the philanthropic side with Boys and Girls Club, and then Junior Achievement I met at Leadership Las Vegas, and I met with Michelle Jackson, who is the CEO now, and I asked her a little bit about the program, and she said, "Well, I would love for you to be on the board." And during Leadership Las Vegas, so class of 2017. One of my best friends, her and I went to San Diego. When we went to San Diego, she was like, "Hey, I'm going to go check out, Junior Achievement's BizTown in San Diego. I'm going for a day trip." I'm like, "Can I come with you?" So I literally canceled my appointments for the day. I hopped on a flight with her. We both went to San Diego. We checked out BizTown. I walked in and my eyes and my jaw dropped the moment I walked in. It is probably one of the most amazing things you will ever see, because you've got these kids that are in middle school that are running a city.
Okay.
They have jobs.
It's like a little theme park, right?
They have jobs. They help each other, buy and sell at their jobs, whether it's a Home Depot or it's, the airline or it's a news reporter or whatever it may be. They have jobs. And so they go in with training for a couple of weeks before they go get these jobs. And then they go in, there's a mayor of the town. They have a town hall meeting. I mean, it is next level amazing. So they decide what job they want. They go through interviews. They create a resume. So they have all of this stuff that's ready to go. So when I sat down with Michelle to talk to her about Junior Achievement, I said, the only way I intend on being on the board for Junior Achievement is if we have BizTown in Vegas.
I've seen some reels about this thing that you're talking about, kids playing. So it happened?
So we literally, so this right here, this hammer that you see is our breaking barrier hammer. We were breaking the walls of the existing facility to build BizTown, and that happened, I can't remember what year it was, 2023. So that's when we did that, and the building just opened.
It's open, right?
It just opened about 6 months ago.
So where is it? So, I mean, people
it's off
here in
of
Vegas
Tropicana at 95. It's where the old 24-hour fitness used to be. But you can now put in Junior Achievement of Southern Nevada or Junior Achievement Inspiration Center, and you'll find it. It's off of Tropicana and 95. It's an amazing facility, and I'm super, super proud. So it was a full circle moment for me when that happened. I was the secretary of the board, and I remember Michelle called me and she was like, "Hey, we have to go sign some docs for our closing." And I went, "What?" Yeah. So I sat down, and I was the one that signed off on, buying the building, which was great.
The hammer comes again.
Yeah. Huh?
The hammer comes again.
The hammer comes again.
Tell me how kids can get involved in this, because I know several kids that would love to learn financial literacy. I had no idea.
So it's through the program. The program is through the schools. So whether it's a public school or a private school or a charter school, the principal and then the people who make the decisions on, because it costs money. Okay. So they make the decision on sending the kids in the schools to Inspiration Center. And then if you have children who are homeschooled, then we have special homeschool days where we will invite parents who have kids that are homeschooled to come check out Inspiration Center and be a part of BizTown and Finance Park and stuff which Finance Park is probably really, it's one of my favorite programs as well. That's where, so I remember when my sons went through it, they got an iPad with a situation. So my son was a single mother, right? With two, it didn't matter. It didn't it was single mother with 2 kids. He was an accountant and he got this much money. It was $60,000 a year or whatever. And he had to make decisions about how he was going to spend his money every single month. And then he was like, okay, so if I get $60,000 a year, that means I make this much a month. And I'm like, oh, but taxes, you got to remove the taxes out of it. And he's like, okay, wait, so then my paycheck is only this much? I'm like, yeah. So I can't buy the Ferrari? No. So okay, so what if I want to go buy, so-and-so? I'm like, well, what about rent? What about paying for utilities? You've got to go do those things as well, right? And so it was very eye-opening. And some of the kids that walked there our parents have to decide all of these things. I'm like, daily. We have to decide this daily. So it really is one of my favorite programs for kids to go through because it really opens their eyes to some of these decisions. So that's what Junior Achievement's about.
I think it's wizard, and thanks for sharing. I had no idea of these there. And well, that's one of the top ones philanthropically. Let's touch on the group where I met you, Entrepreneurs Organization.
Yeah.
I'd like to know how you define the Entrepreneurs Organization from your perspective.
It's what I'm doing in my entrepreneurial journey, next level. And I think the way that I best describe it is that you get from being a part of EO, Entrepreneurs Organization, you get what you put into it. When I first joined, and that was also back in 2021. So when I first joined EO, I had to really figure out what do I want from this thing?
Right. Let's stop. But what is EO? Let's start with that so that people know.
I don't know how to describe it. I don't know how to. I don't even know how I would describe it. I mean, I feel like it's family.
Okay. It's a group of people.
It's a group of people who are entrepreneurs who make over a certain threshold because you have to qualify you have to be an entrepreneur, which means you have to be the owner of the company, and you have to qualify by being at a certain threshold or higher. And so that's the general version. But if I was to describe it, for me, I'd say it's family. It's where I feel at home. It's where I can talk to people about things I can't talk to other people about because some people just don't understand.
Right. We're entrepreneurs. We're in that boat.
Yeah. There are some things, whether it's with family or business or, I don't know, even contract negotiations. I feel like I've tapped into a group of people who really understand where I'm at in my journey. And it could be anybody. It could be somebody who's basically just starting out and wants to level up, or somebody who is completely leveled up and wants to exit and sort of say, hey, I'm done with this now and I'm going to exit out of it, but I may want to go do something else and acquire more businesses or whatever. It's focused on a lot of business, but I feel like I get more out of it from that. And the thing with the organization is that there's so many different paths that you can take. And I've chosen a little bit of all of them, to be honest with you. So you can take the path of being a learner. And I'm going to go this year. One of my goals is to either take the MIT program, the Stanford program, or the Harvard program. I haven't decided which one. I'm going to sit down and really dive into it, but I'm going to do one of those, right? For sure. So that's the learner one. And I go to all the learning events. I want to learn I love learning, right? I have a lot of designations and certifications because that's what I do. I continuously look into my business. I'm continuously learning about what it is that we do, how it changes. I want to know it all. And so, it's the same thing no matter what I do. That's kind of I think the best way to describe me is how I do anything is how I do everything. So if I do this way, this is how I do everything in my life that way. Does that make sense?
Yes. And that's 100%.
Yeah. So, and I've decided that so I've done the learning journey. I'm on my leadership journey right now. I'm membership engagement. So I'm on a leadership journey. At some point, I want to be president of our chapter. And then I don't know how else to describe it. I could keep going.
You don't need to.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you. I'd like to talk about legacy now.
Okay.
When people speak about Vandana Bhalla's impact on the community, on the Vegas community, years from now, what would you hope they'll say?
That's a big one. I would hope that they would say that I was kind, even though that I try really hard, to have this persona of the hammer, that I'm this person that comes in and gets things done. I would hope that they would find that I'm kind, that I care, that I actually do love. I love my community. I love my family. I love the people in my life. I spend time with, and I one-on-one engage with folks. I hope they say that I inspired them in some way. I'm going to stop because I'm going to start. I will cry a little bit more myself.
Please.
I think those are the keys for me.
So if you could leave our listeners with one key insight or piece of wisdom about succeeding in life, what would it be?
We get one opportunity to do this thing, right? Like, we just get one chance to be whoever it is that we want to be, whatever it may be. I could have continued to be that overweight, content with my life, eating pasta and drinking wine every single night, which, again, nothing wrong with that if that's who you want. I could have been that. I knew that I wanted something different, and so I went all in. So if I could say anything, like, no matter what you do, just go all in on it. Because, don't worry about what everybody else thinks. Just go all in.
That is a viral clip. There you go. So where can our audience connect with you, learn more about you, about your services? Or ask you out for coffee, I guess.
Ask me out for coffee for face-to-face. I'm on Instagram at Realtor Vandana. You can find me as Realtor Vandana pretty much anywhere. So like Vandana at realtorvandana.com is my email. Realtor Vandana on Instagram. Realtorvandana.tv for YouTube. Facebook.com/Realtor Vandana. LinkedIn, Realtor Vandana. That's kind of like that's my jam right now.
We'll provide it in the links. Thank you, Vandana. Thank you for being a Vegas voice.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
You inspire me. I appreciate you.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
Thank you.